Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I've spent the last 2+ decades of my life. I'm in Florence. As I was saying in the previous episode, when I got to Florence, we're on a mountain. So everything is built, according to the landscape. So you got hills and it's on a mountain. When I got there, it was like deja vu, because all those dudes that was on that compound, I was with them in Beaumont. The yard was exactly, the population was just exactly like Beaumont. It was all Texas dude. You got the white gangs, you got the Texas AB, but you had a couple of dudes from AC over there. I think it's Aryan Circle. They had them separated for a little bit because they had got, the ABs and the AC had got into it with each other. Like the Mexican gangs, there was people from all over the world, but as far as like the gang that pretty much runs the yard for their respective group or were dominant over there as far as numbers, and I don't know, as far as number goes, were the TS, Texas MA, the Norteños, and the rest, everybody else. There was a couple pistoleros, but I'll tell you about that. They're not there in Florence anymore, but it was just like Beaumont. All the blacks or whatever, they were just, the same groups, the same gangs that were in Beaumont. You got GDs, Vice Lords, Crips, Bloods, every yard you go to. The only difference is how many of them is there. Once you start going towards the East Coast, or Midwest, there's gonna be more, GDs and Vice Lords. When you get out to the West Coast, there's gonna be more Crips and Bloods, as far as with the blacks. But you got P-Stones, Latin folks. You got every gang that's out here in the streets. One time or another, you're gonna run into one of them in the system. That's where we all end up. Gang members, you end up in a in a box that's 6 feet beneath your feet, or you end up in a box with gun towers around it. When I got there, for me, Florence was chill. It was mellow. There was only about 8 or 9 homies over there. But, being it, but don't let me saying that it was mellow be deceptive. Because, the only reason it was mellow the way it was because we were locked down. The whole prison was separated. You had EA, EB. That's one block, 2 separate units, but they wrecked together. My unit, I lived in DA. We got DA and DB. But DB is a psych ward. They don't ever come out on the compound. So being in DA, we just wrecked with our block because the unit next to us is a psych unit and they don't ever get to come out. Then you got CA and CB. They're 2 units, but they're a block and they get to wreck together. And then BA and BB are a step-down program for the people coming out of ADX. Like I said, when you get sent to ADX, it's a 5-7 year minimum program. But once you finish that program, you don't necessarily go back out to population. You go to what is called a step-down program, which they had in Florence, BA and BE. They treat it as a separate prison than the USP Florence. But every time somebody gets killed in that step-down program, the USP gets locked down too. And a lot of people get butchered in that step-down program. Just think about, these guys are locked down. Most of these guys are never coming home. Most of these guys have multiple life sentences. They've already been deemed a problem even in the penitentiary system. So they've been locked down in ADX because of their level of violence or level of authority, juice, whatever. They have the system feels that they have a lot of influence, a lot of power, or they're just batshit crazy. So they got them in ADX doing a 7-year program. After they get done with the ADX, they start integrating them back into population, which is a step-down program, which is another 3 to 7 years, depending on how you're able to get through it. Now, during the time that I was there in USP Florence, the step-down program, you're mostly locked up in your cell, but you get to come out for your hour rec, and you get to come out for like group sessions, classes or whatever they got you doing over there. Well, it seems like every other week when they let these guys come out to do their classes or their program, somebody gets butchered. Now, depending on who it is that gets stabbed up or get killed in the step-down program determines how long we're locked down on our compound. Because a lot of these dudes that are in ADX and are in step-down programs, for the most part, a lot of them are older homies or even big homies for the rest of the population, for the rest of the gangs out here in the USP. All the gang leaders, most of them, the ones that had a lot of influence or have a lot of influence, are slammed down in ADX. So you get that vibe when you hit that yard that just across the road, like on the ADX complex, you don't really see any walls or fence or anything. The way you spot it from where we're at is just by the field lights, by the lights they have like over the soccer field or football stadiums. Well, they have those lights surrounding the prison. Every other prison that you see in Florence comes off the ground. Building, gun tower, fence, wall, whatever. But when you go to ADX, it's almost flat and it's just like lights. So you already know that's not a place that you want to be. I've been committed to ADX twice, but both times the ADX program refused me because I didn't qualify. To be able to be put in that program, you have to be extra violent or influential or something where the administration feel they can't handle you in a population where they don't want you in a regular population. I was just saying this to ADX because my judge didn't like me and she thought I was somebody that I'm not, whatever. So she tried to commit me to ADX when I thought I was going to USP Florence. But I didn't discover this until I've appealed my case, filed my appeal. Then I'm reading through it and you get to the part where she sends you and she's like, yeah, I commit inmate so-and-so to the Supermax security prison in Florence, Colorado, But when I got to Florence, as I told you in the previous episode, people can look on the BOP.com and find out what prison you are or what prison you're going to. So, like I said, there's nowhere that you can go without people knowing that you're there or with the people there not knowing that you're coming, especially if you're involved with people that are organized and have a line of communication. So somebody looked me up and they found out I was designated to Florence. So when they found out I was designated to Florence, they already shot me paperwork on some of the dudes that are on that yard. So when I got to the yard, there was like 8, 9 homies. And when I got there, a few of them I already knew from other spots. I'm like, hey, man, I just got out of the program, right? They're like, yeah, whatever. I said, so you guys been sitting over here for a year already on this yard. I've been locked down for the last 2 years, year and a half. So why am I getting this paperwork? I just got here. How come you guys haven't dealt with this shit over here? You know, they sent me the paperwork on that fool, Ofri from Uso fam. Ofora, whatever his name is. Big O. So, you know, when I asked them, they're all just looking at each other like, well, he said he looked at his paperwork. He said he looked at his paperwork. You know, everybody just pointing fingers at everybody saying that they cleared this dude. You know, me, like I said, I always hear things that aren't being said. So if there's more than one person on this compound that cleared this dude who was blatantly a rat, you know, his paperwork is in his own handwriting, then, well, whoever cleared his paperwork is probably fucked up too, and they were just trying to hide each other out, you know? Because when I hit that compound, when I started going to chow hall and people recognized me and see me that was there, you know, I had black dudes, Mexican dudes, white dudes that I've been in another spot with come and say what's up. And a few of them was like, hey man, your homeboys over here, they're not all the way kosher. Like that, you know, when I got there, that fool O had already checked in. So what we're doing now is just debating how the fuck was he on that yard for that long, knowing that he was fucked up. And now everybody's just pointing fingers at each other. So I'm like, listen, man, you already know how it is. We check paperwork over here. So we're going to have a paperwork party. Then that's what we'll have. But I just got there. This is like my second, third day over there. So I'm really not trying to stir the pot yet because my wife is coming to see me in 2 weeks. The third week I was there, I got a visit. So I haven't seen my wife at this time in almost 3 years. Because even before I went to the shoe in Atwater, she had gotten sick and, you know, financial reasons and stuff because of medical bills and stuff, she hadn't been able to come and visit me. So it's been almost 3 years since I seen her. So even though, you know, my mentality is every time I get on a compound is just to go ahead and crash, blow everything up that needs to be blown up and figure it out. But at this time, I'm just like, yeah, I've been locked down for almost 2 years. I haven't seen my wife in almost 3, so I'm gonna give it at least 3 weeks till after I see my wife before I start inserting myself into the environment. And I told him, I said, hey, listen, I got on the phone with my wife. She has some urgent, because I got people that's in other different penitentiaries that we keep in contact with. And one of the homies that was calling my wife was in Pollock and he had a cell phone. So he was able to communicate with her directly and pass her whatever message that they were trying to get to me. Now just think about that. I'm nobody. I'm just a kid from Utah that got thrown into the lion's den and is just trying to figure my way through it, trying to survive the system. And I'm able to set up a line of communication, a secure line of communication, set up resources to build a hustle in there and do different things. And I'm nobody. So these dudes that are part of these different organizations or whatever, you have to think that their line of communication is way beyond mine. I don't have like codes broken down that people that I know knows about that we can write, you know, a bunch of scrambling shit and someone can decipher it. I don't have any of that. But these other people, they do. I've been privy to some of their literature and some of their codes that, you know, because through the course of my time, I've become real good friends with some of these individuals that a few of them consider me a brother because they know that whatever they share with me is going to stay with me. I'm not going to share certain things that they confide in me in about their politics or whatever's going on with anybody else. And they know that. They know that because it's been proven through the course of our relationship, through 2-3 decades of our relationship. I've never broken anybody's trust. So I have a few different people that sat me down. They're like, hey, if you're at another yard or some situation happened and you need me to help you with something, here's how you communicate with me. And they broke down their codes, what starts on what letter, what sentence, what word, and so on and so forth. It's pretty cool. But anything like if you have the key, if you have the key to it, then you can unlock all the codes. But if you don't know the patterns and don't know the key, when you read their letters, it just looks like a regular conversation. Like I said, I'm just freestyling my way through the environment, learning the things I need to learn to survive. But these dudes, part of me is like in awe or almost in admiration of what they were capable to do, what they were able to do, just the resources from the streets. And when I see the organizations that these individuals, that these entities has created that has lasted 50 years, a lot of them are 50 years and older. And just the power they accumulated and the influence they accumulated through these decades. But my admiration is in how they were able to put it together, not necessarily the choices they make or the things they do. My admiration comes from, imagine if these individuals was able to be brought up differently, was able to be exposed to technology or to modern day science or to where, these entities that they created, these cartels, these families, these groups, these are money-making machines. These are, the cartels, they're like a Fortune 500 company. They just choose to participate in this venture. But anybody that tells you selling drugs, pushing drugs and stuff is the easy way out, you ain't never sold none of that shit. You ain't never dip and dab in the game, because there's a lot of mechanism that goes into place, especially coming from across the border, having to deal with the U.S. government. I mean, you've seen them underground tunnels and all sorts of creative stuff that they use to import their stuff, to export their stuff, import it in here. But also a different organization to keep everything in line, to keep the money flowing, to keep the security. It's a business, and these individuals that create these are intelligent people. Just like I said, my admiration is just like, what could have they done if they would have took a different path? What kind of enterprise, what kind of corporation, what kind of business could they have created? You never know. But my point is just being is that we all grow up and have different opportunities out here in the world. And in the beginning, we're just grasping on the things that we know best, on the resources that we have access to. Well, part of my project here is finding ways to show these individuals out there that there's a lot more resources out here than the ones in their neighborhood, than the one down the streets. Again, we have access to the whole world, But I get sidetracked. Like I said, I always just freestyle. I'm at 297? No. Yeah, right? I'm only a couple of subscribers away from 3,000. And, I never asked you guys to subscribe, like, and share, because I just don't want to be repetitive and asking you guys to like, subscribe, and share. But if you guys like this content, the stuff that I'm putting out, man, put them on your Facebook, share them with your friends, share them with as many people as you can, and let's see what happens with this. We got a few things coming down the pipeline that I'm excited about, and we're in USP Florence. Shit's gonna get cracking. Like I told you before I left, the place got locked down, a congressional lockdown, because Washington, D.C. felt like the level of violence that was happening in USP Florence was exceeding all the other penitentiary during that time period. Welcome to the USP.